Okay, so, so this is work environment, work and industry, week 4, worker abilities. Today we're going to get into stress, childcare, and cognition. In this first part, though, we're just going to do some review, kind of broadly define work, and look at job satisfaction. This lecture is the last lecture on the new content that you'll need for your midterm. This is the last of the stuff you need to know for your midterm exam that's just coming right up, 10-1, I believe. Okay, week 5. All right, so just a quick review on the sitting, standing, walking stuff we've been doing with Williamson. If you look at these pictures, I think you can help us work our way through the review. So she's sitting here looking really good. She's got that slight anterior tilt. She's sitting on her sit bones, not on her tailbone. Her ears, shoulders look good. Head looks good, just not the forward head. Shoulders and chest are nice and open. To get this tilt, we talked about the 2 ways of doing the tilt, if it's excessive anterior or excessive posterior. She had excessive anterior tilt. It's coming too far forward this way. You want to push it back the other way to kind of where it is. You would engage her rectus abs right in here. To do that, you could do wall slides. So if she's sitting against the wall, pushing in with her stomach, she slides up and down. Do something similar laying on the ground. Push her stomach in, lift her legs up and down. Let's say it's the opposite. Let's say she's too far this way. She's sitting on her tailbone, and she has like a posterior tilt. And you want to move her more anteriorly with an anterior tilt. They'll be engaging the iliacus and psoas muscles he keeps talking about. How would you do those? You could do number 4. That was a really good one. Even the whole sequence, 1 through 4, would be good. All that entire sequence works on getting more of a slight anterior tilt and engaging those hip flexors, in particular the iliacus and the psoas. Okay, standing. She looks really good standing. She's lined up here. Nice little tilt. Weight comes right through her ankle bones. You want the weight through the ankle bones. You know, somebody's standing and they're hyperextending their knees, or their pelvis is all funky. You want to get their weight through their ankle bones. So talking about foot fatigue from standing at the job all day. A good exercise, the one you do with the pencils. Rolling the pencil right around the ankle bone kind of engages, retrains us to think about getting that weight through the ankle bone. Before we move on to walking, one last thing with the posture, especially standing, the person is kind of collapsed. The core is collapsed, kind of shrunken in. She has great trunk extension here, good tone, but if that wasn't the case, it was the opposite. If she was kind of collapsed down, you want to engage transverse and oblique abs on the side. What's an exercise you could do that with? Spider-Man wall climbs, not slides, but wall climbs. Okay, now she's walking over here. She looks really good as she's walking. Some parts of her walking look really good. She is not walking with a flat foot, nor is she whacking her heels back in here. The weight is kind of more midfoot, but midfoot with her weight as she comes down. And she has good arch. You can't really see it, but she has good arch in her feet. Somebody had poor arch in their feet and they had flat feet. You could do that sliding activity, sliding it into an arch that you should have been doing. That would be a good one to do. Here she is, just really good trunk rotation to the left as she comes forward. We did this in the lab. We were walking and watching each other do this. If she didn't have that good hip rotation, I think I gave the example of me. I didn't have good hip rotation and I was getting quad and knee pain. Did that exercise while I was turning. The Williamson exercise is turning and pushing into the wall. The idea of that is just to facilitate more of this trunk rotation as you walk. So you get more of a swing back and forth. You're not so frozen and solid in those hips. So that's kind of a review. This is what you should be knowing, should be sinking into your brain as you get ready for this midterm. These are the lecture questions for today. There is not a quiz on these. I don't believe there was a quiz on these for next week, but they will be potentially on the midterm because we're doing the exam, so there won't be a quiz. But these potentially could be on the midterm, any of these questions. So again, you need to know them all. Here's our case example today. This is straight from the story. A few modifications, the workfare story. We'll go through that at the end when we get to that. She has a lot of work-related stress. One of the big themes today is work-related stress. How do we address that? It's a big part of ergonomics. Stress on the job, as we'll see, leads to all kinds of injuries. And then speaking of work, just kind of broadly defining work. This is some stuff we came up with in prior classes. How would you define work? Being productive, definitely the demands, the physical demands. Making money, is it satisfying and rewarding and meaningful, fulfilling? A lot of people just get pride and self-esteem. They kind of define themselves through their job. I know your job can kind of influence, in a lot of ways, how you see the world. I know, like for example, when my prior life, when I was a journalist, I was working a lot with police officers, police detectives, crime scenes, covering all that sort of stuff. So I quickly saw what their personalities were like. They're very suspicious of everybody, very guarded in a lot of ways. It's just from all that they have to see and all that they're dealing with every day. And I think when I was a journalist, I was kind of always trying to get what was really going on, the truth, and people were always spinning things and trying to make their take on it. So I got kind of jaded, I think, and thinking people were always lying to me and that sort of thing. But as a therapist, I think my personality has changed more. You become more empathetic, thinking about helping people, and that's kind of your focus. So the take home there is that your job can really help define who you are as a person. It kind of brings out certain parts of your personality. Okay, just moving on to job satisfaction, which really relates into how you define work, and it's just a huge part of work. Okay, this sentence right here is very, very important. I'm going to keep coming back to that again and again. What is the number one risk factor around a job? You think, heavy lifting or repetitive motions. It's not. The number one risk factor around a job is job satisfaction. So that you like your job or you hate your job. If you hate your job, you're a lot more likely to get injured on the job than if you like it. Why is that? It's kind of a complicated kind of thing, but definitely how satisfying, how much you like your job plays a big part of whether or not you're going to get injured and your recovery to get back to work. What involves job satisfaction? Perceived control is a big part of job satisfaction. How do you get perceived control in a job? Flexibility in your schedule, meeting your needs, so childcare needs, for example. Finite day, clear ending to a day. A lot of times with jobs that are meaningful and engaging and fun and pay well, never really have an end. They just kind of bleed into all the time, kind of, and if you're not doing it, you're always thinking about it. That's kind of the downside to having a job where you have to think and really engage yourself like an occupational therapist. At times it's hard to leave the job. You're always thinking about your patients. You're always thinking about your documentation, your work. Teaching's the same way. It's just kind of a 24/7 kind of thing. So, lack of that clear ending can make it more dissatisfying for a job. Feeling competent, if you feel competent in your job, it can make it very satisfying. Feeling like you're making a difference can make a big quality in terms of job satisfaction. Relationships are huge in a job. The atmosphere usually around those relationships. Do you feel appreciated? And people feel like what you're doing is worthwhile and getting support in that sense. Definitely money. Are you compensating enough? Are you struggling with the job still to survive? Creativity Creativity can take a lot of different forms in a job. If there is a degree of creativity in a job, people usually find it a lot more satisfying. Working for others, the altruistic qualities of the job. A healthy environment. Is it dusty, cold, that sort of thing? These are the top jobs that are most satisfying. They polled people and they kind of rated on the scale, and these are the professions that became were the most satisfying for people. I'm not sure how many OTs they talked to, or even if they knew what OTs were. But clergy, and if you go back to those qualities of job satisfaction, you can see that a lot of them really merge up with these jobs. Clergy, I'm sure it's very meaningful, connecting with and helping people, satisfying. Therapists, I believe OTs, I've seen other scales where OTs are on there, physical therapists are up on this one. Firefighters, they're very pure in the sense of you're helping kind of thing. Education, administrators making a difference. Painters, sculptors, authors, creativity, teachers, there's creativity in teaching and making a difference. Engineers, I'm sure there's a great degree of creativity in applying yourself and being an engineer. So it kind of fits those qualities. All these jobs are just highly satisfying. So if somebody that their job isn't satisfying and you're kind of exploring to them, what do you want to do and kind of getting them on the right path, sort of thing, go back to these qualities, what makes a job satisfying. Good question to kind of ask yourself. If you've had jobs in the past or have a job now that you found to be really satisfying. Maybe it was your level 2, if you did a level 2 or even just a level 1 over the summer. It gets to be like a job towards the end of your level 2 because you're seeing clients and all that. Did you find it satisfying? Why did you find it satisfying? What about it was satisfying? And it probably would go back to those qualities that we were talking about.